Hello and welcome into the third edition of 8Sports Nightcap here on WRIC Now, on our website, our Facebook, our YouTube page. Thanks for tuning in. This is your first time tuning into the show. It's just a kind of a recap show of what happened this past weekend. We're just talking some ball, having some fun, a little commentary, some predictions, and kind of a preview of what's going to take place this weekend as well. If you have any questions or comments, or you want to tune in, feel free to go to our Facebook page. I'm monitoring the comment section over on the Facebook page as well. Thanks so much for tuning in. Let's go ahead and get started with probably the biggest game of the weekend for fans in Virginia, and that's the Virginia Tech Old Dominion game. The Hokies get a 20-point win over the Monarchs on the road in Norfolk, 37-17. The first time that Virginia Tech had ever won in Norfolk. The Hokies, they've struggled. And obviously one was with Justin Fuente. The other was one of the first games underneath Brent Pry. Obviously going on the road to take on a Group of 5 team is not easy. And that was proven early on in this game as Virginia Tech kind of struggled against the Monarchs on the road in front of a great environment. I think the biggest takeaways before we get to the highlights here in just a moment is Kyron Drones looked pretty good. Over 100 yards rushing, over 100 yards passing, had a pass touchdown and a pretty bad interception as well. But Jalen Lane, wearing the 25 jersey in honor of Frank Beamer, had an incredible game, over 100 yards receiving, 7 receptions and a touchdown. And Allie Jennings, against his former team, picked up a couple of receptions as well. So let's go ahead and check out the highlights from Norfolk. Should be the next game. Here we go. Great atmosphere at SB Ballard Stadium. Like I said, the third time that Virginia Tech had gone on the road to play this Old Dominion Monarchs team. Obviously, they brought their program back. Look who's in attendance. It's Bruce Smith. He's enjoying it. He's having fun. And this Hokies team, they were looking to kind of build some momentum from that Marshall game after struggling against Vanderbilt in week 1. And they got it going early with a nice pass here to Jalen Lane. Like I said, 7 receptions for Lane on the day to get the crowd into it and pumped up. And then they took a 14-0 lead thanks to Kyron Drones plunging into the end zone here. That made it 14-0 at the time. But look out, says Quinn Heinickel. Great crowd on hand. Great Virginia Tech fan base on hand. But look at this, a 65-yard touchdown rush for the ODU quarterback, and it kind of shocked everybody, right? Everyone was kind of, is this happening again? As Old Dominion got on the scoreboard 14-7, and then they made it a 14-10 game at halftime as they were able to get the ball back and then kick a field goal as this game went into halftime 14-10 thanks to this field goal here. And the place was rocking. I had family members at this game in attendance, and they were telling me just how crazy the environment was early. A Kyron Drones interception really felt like the momentum had shifted after this one. Just kind of underthrew his receiver. I don't know if Steven Gosnell was even open on the play, but a great pick by ODU. But that's when Brashul Tootin started just going down the tracks. Toot, toot, he says, as he gets into the end zone. And then from there, Virginia Tech kind of played with a little more life, kind of like we saw in the Marshall game, Mansour Delane with that interception there, and that was kind of the end of the game. Tootin's going to pick up another touchdown. Virginia Tech scores 17 points in the fourth quarter. They win it 37-17. Tootin with another touchdown run. They look dominant. They look like what you're supposed to look like when you are a Power 5 team going on the road to play a Group of 5 team. You want to look dominant in those games, and that's what Virginia Tech did, and this is what head coach Brent Pry had to say after the win.
So he's got his best. I thought we responded in all 3 phases at some point during this game, and it was necessary. We started fast, which was necessary. Had we not, we would have been in more of a dogfight down the stretch right there. And so I'm proud of the effort, the players, the coaches. Thought we played better. Nowhere near what we need to do. We got to keep improving all week long. We got to be a better team on Saturday. This is a tough place to play at night, in state, against a team that easily could have been 2-0, quite honestly. So it's good effort by the Hokies.
Yeah, so that's the big takeaway from this one, right? Virginia Tech goes on the road and did what they were supposed to do, beat Old Dominion. They haven't been able to do it the past 2 times that they went there. They looked lackluster. They looked shell-shocked, like they weren't ready to play the previous 2 trips. And this time around, they looked like a team competent. It looked like a team that is kind of moving in the direction that I think fans thought that Virginia Tech would be this year after the slow start versus Vanderbilt. They ended up losing because of it. A slow start versus Marshall. They were able to kind of gain some confidence. And then week 3, they come in to Norfolk and look really good and started the game off fast. 14-0 out the break. It looked like it was going to be a blowout off the start. They finally had that fast start they were looking for. They don't play a perfect game, and which I think is good. I think if Tech goes into this game and they leave with a 52-0 win, I think they get some false confidence. And I think that Brent Pry and I think his staff know that they kind of didn't look their greatest. They had struggles in the red zone. The defense led up a couple of big runs, both broken plays. I don't think there's too much to worry about for that. And they walk away with a road win over a good Old Dominion team, 37-17. I know it says Marshall on your screen. They obviously beat Old Dominion 37-17. And now they turn their attention to Rutgers, a team that's 2-0 on the season. And this Rutgers team, it's big. It's a Big Ten team. It's the second year that Virginia Tech has hosted a Big Ten team. And obviously this is a Rutgers team that Virginia Tech lost to last year. And this is what head coach Brent Pry had to say today at his press conference when he was previewing the game this Saturday at Lane Stadium.
He's got his best team coming back right now off of a 7-win season, a win over Miami in the bowl game, bunch of guys returning. He's experienced. He's got 8, 9, 10 draft picks on that roster. He's done a nice job rebuilding that program. He's got a good plan, good identity in year 5. So we got our hands full. Big challenge. It's the most physical and biggest, strongest team we've played, obviously, this year and in some time, to be quite honest. They're very big on their defensive line. They're very big at linebacker. And they have a really nice-sized offensive line and a physical run game. So we got our hands full with this crew.
Yeah, so there you have it. Virginia Tech hosts Rutgers this Saturday. I will be in attendance for that game. We'll have full recap on WRIC ABC 8 on Saturday night. Be sure to tune in. All right, let's turn our attention now to Charlottesville. Virginia hosted Maryland in what was a really close game. I think it's closer than what the final score shows. Maryland wins at 27-13. UVA kind of let this one slip away from them. They had 4 turnovers in the game, 2 picks, 2 fumbles, but the defense played really well for UVA in this game. Maryland only scored points off of 1 of their 4 turnovers. So I think you see a lot of the headlines this past Saturday from the Virginia game, and a lot the headlines all talked about the turnovers. The turnovers were bad. Don't get me wrong here. The turnovers were not good. Anthony Calandria struggled. 2 picks, had a couple of boneheaded plays, a bad fumble, but the UVA defense was able to stand tall, and they were able to hold Maryland despite having the 4 turnovers. UVA took a lead in just before halftime, a great touchdown from Calandria. He finished with 1 touchdown, 17 yards. Kobe Pace, he was the workhorse running the ball, 46 yards for him. But the struggles in the red zone for the Virginia Cavaliers, I think, is one of the biggest things to kind of talk about in this game. At halftime, coming out of halftime, they really struggled. They had some opportunities to put some points on the board early on in this game, and they had to settle for some field goals as well as some turnovers. And that's what plagued them. It's obviously their season is still in front of them. UVA is still 1-0 in the ACC. But in terms of a confidence standpoint and an excitement standpoint for the Cavs, I think it's clear that this is not a step in the right direction as they fall 27-13. Great crowd on hand in this game for the first half. The Hill was packed. It was loud. They forced a couple of Maryland early false starts, and it's part of the reason that they were able to have that good early lead, but coming out of halftime, they really struggled, as they have in every game that they've had this year, and that crowd kind of went with the team. The stadium kind of emptied out towards the end of the game due to the fact that the team was not playing well. This is what head coach Tony Elliott had to say following the loss at home to Maryland, 27-13.
In a game is a score at halftime, right? So we had, it didn't matter if we were up or we were down. We got to come out and play, the best second half that we possibly could. And tonight we didn't do that. And I haven't done a good job the last 2 weeks of having these guys ready to go coming out of half in the third quarter. So I got to do a better job. I got to coach better. I got to have them better prepared to win the second half of the middle eight. I thought they did a good job recapturing momentum with the first half of the middle eight, but we did not come out, had turnovers, and then we weren't able to establish anything offensively. But we got it to the fourth quarter, one possession game. That's where we want to be, and we just couldn't. We couldn't regenerate what we did last week, and we'll go back and we'll evaluate the film and figure out how we got to coach better. And they know how to win.
Yeah. So Coach Elliott, they're taking a lot of the blame. Something's wrong with UVA at a halftime. They've struggled last week against Wake Forest coming out of the break, and that was the big difference maker in this game for UVA as they struggled out of halftime in this one as well. Turning our attention to what they have going on this Saturday. They travel to Coastal Carolina in what is a scary, scary, scary situation. Coastal Carolina over the past few years obviously have had so much success, look like a team that deserved to be inside the top 15, and they have done that. They, a couple seasons ago had the opportunity to schedule an extra game against another really good team to kind of prove, that they deserve to be, in a big bowl game. Excuse me. Lost my train of thought on what that bowl game is called, but Coastal Carolina is 3-0. They think that they are a team that is going to be able to compete for the college football playoff. With the expanded 12-team playoff, obviously one group of 5 team does, and we're slowly kind of getting an idea already of who that group of 5 team will be. Obviously, Northern Illinois, with their win over Notre Dame, probably holds the keys to the car on that one. But Coastal thinks that if they can get a win over a Virginia Cavaliers team that's coming off of a loss, could put themselves in the conversation for being that group of 5 team that makes the playoffs as well. And that's kind of what head coach Tony Elliott had to say today when previewing the Chanticleers.
They've taken care of business in their first 3 games, and done it in a respectable fashion. So they know, right? Now the question is, okay, how are they going to respond to the information that they receive? Are they going to choose? And really the challenge was, let's be different. If we just look at us, like let's focus on us in the last 10 true road games versus non-Power 5, 4 and 6. So we want to be different, and we want to change things. And it starts with, us taking care of what we need to take care of from a preparation standpoint to go 1-0 this week. And if we do that, but don't think we're just going to roll the ball out there and this team's going to lay down and not show up. And they're playing at home. They got a sold-out crowd. Homecoming, I believe. They got Parents Weekend. They got a bunch of stuff. We're trying to get extra tickets. We don't have enough tickets for ourselves because they got a big crowd. I mean, it's going to be a fun environment. But those guys are going to come out that locker room believing that they're going to win the game. And so we have to have a greater level of belief. But we also got to go out and we got to bring that belief into action and do what we need to do, play in and play out.
Yeah, I actually looked up those tickets on StubHub today. They're going for over $100, so they're pretty excited down there in near Myrtle Beach, beautiful campus. Drove through there not too long ago, and that Coastal Carolina team is really good. It'll be interesting to see if the Cavs can come away with the win. If they do win on the road at Coastal Carolina, as Coach had just mentioned, they're 4-6 in their last 10 road games against Group of 5 teams. I think this would be a great confidence building and a building block for this Cavaliers team as their season progresses. Like I mentioned, they lost to Maryland, but the big storyline, they're still 1-0. They still know that they can get better, and if they can get a big win against Coastal Carolina, I think that'll say a lot. All right, turning our attention now to Richmond. Man, what a dominating performance for the Richmond Spiders. They win this one 38-0 over Charleston Southern. And the highlights on this one, we're just going to get right into it because, man, was it fun to watch the Spiders at home against Charleston Southern. A shutout win, great crowd on hand, and this is what set the tone. Check out Matthew Traynor, a huge hit to get the Spiders offense and defense really going. Let's try to get a replay on that, actually. This is first play of the game, set the tone. Traynor with a massive hit to kind of set the tone for the defense, and boy, did it, because from there, the Spiders looked unstoppable. Kyer Wickersham in for the sneak. That put them on the scoreboard, 7-0. And then how about the play of Jeremiah Grant? Back-to-back sacks for the Spiders defense, and they looked dominant. Great game from Zach Palmer-Smith in for the score here. One of his 2 touchdowns that he had on Saturday. And then the defense, did I mention how great they played? Jabril Hayes picks it off. He's going the other way, 76 yards to the house. The Richmond Spiders get their first win of the year, 38-0. A shutout win for Richmond, and boy, was it needed. The Spiders really struggled last week against Wofford. They needed to make a statement, and they did with this showing, and they did it on offense. They did it on defense. They looked incredible, and they needed it so badly to kind of put themselves back into the conversation of, a competitor, a team that can compete in the CAA. Obviously, they have not had a conference game yet. This week, they will hit the road to take on Delaware State. The Hornets are 1-2 on the season. To start the year, they had that funky storyline where their plane was late, and they missed their plane to Hawaii, and they actually played pretty good against the Rainbow Warriors. They fell 35-14, but like I mentioned, they do have a win on the season, and they're going to have to host a Richmond team that's finally kind of made that next step and is playing their best ball right now. All right, let's turn things now to the NFL. The Washington Commanders get their first win of the year, 21-18 over the New York Giants. Jaden Daniels looked okay, right? He's still obviously trying to find his footing in the NFL in the pass game. 23 completions for 29 attempts, over 200 yards passing. Wasn't able to find the end zone. The team wasn't able to find the end zone this week. Brian Robinson Jr., 17 carries for 133 yards. Those 17 carries for Robinson Jr., the most that he has had in weeks, as he looked really good and finally looked good for this Washington Commanders team, as they beat the Giants off of 7 field goals from Austin Seibert, the Oklahoma alum, set a franchise record for 7 field goals in a game, and it just also happened to be his debut. The Commanders obviously released kicker Brandon McManus week 1 after missing a couple of field goals, so they bring in this Austin Seibert kid, and he goes 7 for 7, which is just unreal. As I mentioned, Robinson with 133 yards, career high 7.8 yards a rush. He probably could have deserved a couple of more red zone touches. They trailed in this game 12-9. And the Giants were driving out of halftime. They got a big turnover, and from there, they got the win, a much-needed win as Washington moves to 1-1 on this season. Jaden Daniels doesn't look great, looked okay. You got to remember it's his second game in the NFL, and they get the win, and that's the big storyline. It was ugly. They know they didn't play well. They know they have a lot to work on, but they get the win, and that's what matters as the season progresses. Next week, they go on the road to take on a Cincinnati Bengals team that has had its ups and downs. Obviously, Joe Burrow is back and looking like his old self. That's going to be on Monday Night Football. And let's look up exactly to make sure that they are going on the road here. Yes, they are. They're playing at Cincinnati, taking on a Bengals team who is 0-2. They're looking for their first win of the season, and that's on Monday Night Football. Kick is set for 8:15, and you can watch that right here on WRIC, as we will have the game as the ABC affiliate. All right, finally, let's finish things with a little 8Sports Blitz talk. Man, it's been so much fun getting to know these teams, these coaches, and the players, the fan bases here. This past week, I was over at Cosby High School. Awesome atmosphere. I mean, there was probably 5,000 people at the game. It blew me away. Great atmosphere at Cosby. Midlothian won that game. That's the game, and the third game down on your screen now. This week, that Midlothian team will head to Manchester, who got a big win last week to move to 1-1 over Powhatan. That Powhatan-Manchester game was a great game. It probably could have been up for debate for game of the week as well. Manchester wins it big, though, to move to 1-1. I like that Midlothian at Manchester matchup. I think that's going to be a really good one. It'll be interesting to see who takes that one, as Midlothian has won 2 in a row following that week 1 loss to Monacan. In terms of our game of the week options, it's either going to be Douglas Freeman at Highland Springs or Thomas Dale at Glen Allen. Let's talk about both these games real quick, because you can still vote on these games until midnight tonight. If you go to our website, click under sports, it'll be the first article on your screen. Right now, it looks like our viewers are kind of on the Thomas Dale Glen Allen side, and how could you not be? An undefeated matchup. Glen Allen 3-0 to start the year under first-year head coach Malik Sexton, while Thomas Dale 2-0 on the season as they won a massive game against LC Bird earlier this season. The other option was Douglas Freeman, who's undefeated at Highland Springs. This game is really interesting because Highland Springs obviously has been the best team in the state, or in Central Virginia, and in a lot of the seasons the state, but have struggled this year. They lost to Maury when they came to town, and then the week before that, they lost to another team from Norfolk as they struggled in that game as well. So that'll be a real sign to see if Highland Springs, maybe they just played, the best of Class 5 and the best of Class 4, or if Douglas Freeman is the real deal, if they can knock off a Highland Springs team. So that'll be interesting to keep an eye on. A couple other matchups to look out for. The only other undefeated matchup this week is Bruton at Northumberland, 3-0 versus 3-0. Dinwiddie heads to Maury, and that game's going to be impressive. We're going to have highlights from that one. Norfolk, we'll be sending those our way, so that should be interesting to watch. Dinwiddie has a chance to compete in Class 4, and that Maury team obviously is incredible as well. So seeing those two teams match up during the regular season, that's pretty cool for us to be able to see that. Armstrong, they're still undefeated, and they head to Goochland, who is looking for their first win of the year as well. 8 Sports Blitz will kick off this Friday at 11 o'clock. Be sure to tune in, as we'll have all the action from week 4 of the high school football season. But that's going to just about wrap things up here for 8 Sports Blitz, the week 3 edition. If you tuned in for the first time, thanks for joining us. Just kind of recap what happened last week, what happened in the future. I think in the future we're going to have a couple of guests on as well to talk some ball and just have some fun and keep everyone on the same page of what's going on around the state of Virginia in terms of high school and college football. And of course, as we get closer to basketball season, we'll talk some Spiders and some Rams basketball as well. But thanks so much for tuning in here on WRIC.com, or Facebook, or YouTube. It's been great talking with you this week. Big shout out to my producer, Tanik Blair, for helping me out as always for this show. A lot of work goes into this and the graphics, and Seth Turnage has done a lot of work on this show too. So appreciate those guys helping me out with this. But thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week, same place, same time, right here, 6:45 on Tuesdays for your 8 Sports Nightcap. Good night, everybody. I'll see you tonight at 11 o'clock.